Hi everyone, welcome to Gig Harbor, Washington, where the anchor all began. We are standing here in front of a net shed, and for those of you who don't know what a net shed is, our town is an old fishing community, and back in the day, the fishermen would come off the water and bring their boats in and bring their nets into these net sheds to be repaired and get equipped and just get a little rest off the water. So we thought, what a great analogy for the anchor where it first began is this place where women of all ages can come to gather and be together and be restored and be encouraged. So this month we are going to share an anchor moment with you. And an anchor moment is a time in your life when your faith has really been grounded and you've seen God at work for real. And we are thrilled that we are going to be able to share with you stories from women of all kinds of backgrounds and all ages, and our hope and prayer is that you would be encouraged.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm from Woodinville, Washington, and now I live in Sammamish, so I'm a true local and I love it here. I love the mountains, and you can often find me out hiking or biking or just doing something outside. I have two brothers, older, and one who's 10 years younger. And I will admit I'll do anything for my little brother, just don't tell him I said that, because I do love my brothers. I went to Woodinville High School, went to Stanford University, where I earned a degree in biomechanical engineering. And after I graduated, started working for a company called Olympus, where I'm still at. And I actually just celebrated my 6 years, which is kind of crazy. Started off as an engineer, now doing more project management. So yeah, some cool stuff. In terms of my faith journey, I grew up in a Christian household. My mom told me that I first asked Christ into my life when I was 3 years old, which of course I don't remember, but I do remember asking him when I was 6. And then growing up, my mom would send my older brother and I to vacation Bible school every summer, which then morphed into the overnight week-long camps such as Young Leif and Malibu and all that fun stuff through high school. So definitely blessed with all of that. And it gave me a really strong foundation going into college, because college is hard. Just so many different attitudes and beliefs. And I'm so grateful that God introduced me to a couple Christian groups on campus my first week there. And some of my closest friends to this day are from those groups. And yeah, he really helped grow my faith during that time, as I learned just how to make it my own and just taking responsibility for it and choosing it, and choosing those people and those communities. And yeah, he really taught me just the importance of relationships during that time too. And I was actually recruited to row when I went to Stanford, and it was a super cool opportunity, but by my second year, I just did not like the way the coach was treating us, and wasn't super close to any of the girls on the team. So I did leave the team, and it actually gave me so much more time to just spend with my good friends and really build those relationships. And that's something that really just the idea of relationships and that importance really helped me with my anchor, I'll say, season that I'm going to share, that in some ways I'm still kind of going through at this time. So 2 years ago, I was actually engaged, which is crazy to think about. I'd had my eye on a guy at church for a year, and then we started dating. And in 2019, I was engaged, and we decided to get married that summer, so I had 5 months to plan a wedding. And I should note that I lead the party committee at my office, so I was really excited to hit the ground running and plan a fun wedding. And by a month in, my fiance at the time basically got cold feet, and he was so anxious. I had never seen him like that. And I just kept pushing it aside, thinking, no, he's just nervous because getting married is a big deal. But by the time we were 2 months away from the wedding, we had to call it off because the anxiety was too much, and he said just some really hurtful things, and it wasn't going to happen. And so that was a big God thing right there, God moment that I didn't realize until later, just what God saved me from, because it would have been, just a really hard marriage. And then he helped me process that by then giving me something else to focus on right after that engagement broke off. Because during the season that we were dating and up through our engagement, I was actually losing my vision in one eye. Technically both, but mostly one. And by the time we'd broken it off, I could barely read with my right eye. No matter how big the font was on the wall when you go to the eye doctor, I could not read it. It was just a blur. And the doctor told me I was one of 2 people he's ever seen with juvenile cataracts, so yay me. Not something you want to have. And so the plan was to get cataract surgery, but then he decided to do some more tests, and long story short, sent me to a neuro-ophthalmologist. And within a day, I had my appointment and then went and had an MRI, which if you've never had a brain scan, I hope you never need one, because they basically trap your head into a cage and then you're stuck in a tube in the MRI machine. And then that afternoon, I was back at my office in a meeting, and I got a phone call from the doctor saying, hey, you have a mass that's 1 inch in diameter at the base of your skull, and you're going to need to meet a neurosurgeon next week. So not a great way to go into my weekend, but the next week my dad and I went to meet with the fellow because the surgeon was out. And I just remember him walking in, and he introduced himself and said, oh, I help the doctor with the more complicated cases. And I'm just sitting there with my dad like, I don't want to know what that means. And basically, so I had was a meningioma, which is a growth that occurs on the lining of your brain. And unfortunately, mine was in a location where it was hitting both my optic nerves, and it was close to the pituitary gland, and it had an artery running right next to it. So it was not in a good spot, and because of its size, the only way to get to it was to actually do a craniotomy. And so the doctors had to remove part of my skull and go under my brain and remove this mass. So definitely a very scary time in my life. But that's where, all these hard events going on, I just totally saw God working through the other people around me. And I just, going into my surgery, he filled me with such peace, because I remember looking back, I don't even know where that peace came from, so I know it was God, because I just remember praying for the people in the operating room. Just praying, whatever happens to me in there, because I used to joke with people, hey, I'll see you on the other side. Just saying, like, hey, God, I hope that whoever is in that room would see your presence. So that's what I just know God was with me there. And then on the other side, I spent 5 days in the hospital, and that's just where I totally saw God working through my relationships and my friendships, kind of going back to what I touched on earlier that I learned at Stanford. I don't remember anything that was said during those 5 days in the hospital, but I remember the people who showed up. I remember their faces. I remember coworkers and friends coming. I remember my dad being there, and he spent every night there on the most uncomfortable chair that would not recline. And yeah, just to see how much God loved me through those people. So even though, I'd lost the person I thought I was going to marry and spend my life with, like, God just continued to fill me with love from everyone else in my life. And then, going home, it just continued. Friends ding-dong ditched me and left treats at my doorstep. A coworker's daughter would bring cookies every week. And then just the time with my family. The special moments with my dad, when he would just come down in the morning and watch the Great British Baking Show with me, or convincing my 15-year-old brother at the time to give me a foot massage, which he did not want to do. Just such special moments with family that, I'm so grateful for. So as hard as that season was, God just totally just filled my bucket with love during that season to then prepare me for the next year, because last year, so 2020, my dad actually died of cancer. He had it for 4 years. And so just looking back on that time that God gave me, and although the circumstances were terrible, he showed me such grace giving me that time with my dad, and such good memories now to hold on to. Yeah, it's been, as I said, I'm kind of still in the season, losing a parent, losing anybody. You never get over it. Maybe it gets a little easier, but you never get over it. So just to see how God continues to work through that is pretty cool. Yeah, thank you for listening.